Okay, folks, let's go ahead and get started. My name is John Lohman. I am the publisher of the Corridor Business Journal. I want to welcome all of you to our latest free webinar as part of our Corridor Rising series. As many of you know, the Corridor Business Journal hosts lots of events throughout the year. And with the coronavirus, obviously it has impacted our business and our business model like so many other small businesses. So we decided to put together a webinar series that will help readers, business owners, and others kind of navigate this coronavirus crisis that we're all going through right now. So this webinar is free. It's every Tuesday and Thursday, and the goal of it is really to get people connected and informed. We've had two already, and I think they've been recorded and they are available on our website and through YouTube. And I think we're also streaming live on Facebook right now, if I'm not mistaken. So welcome, Facebook folks. And if you have questions for us that are registered through Zoom, you can write those questions down in the chat or the Q&A section, and we'll try to get those questions to our experts throughout the discussion today. Today's panel, of course, is on how to market during a crisis, and we do have three marketing, communications, and advertising experts here in the corridor, and we're fortunate that they were able to come together in a very quick fashion to help us all navigate this challenge from a marketing standpoint. We've got three individuals with us today. We're fortunate to have Jen Neumann, who's the CEO with Novo Marketing. And we've got Lori Davis, who is the Director of Public Relations and Content Strategy with AMPERAGE Marketing and Fundraising. And then we're also fortunate to have Rob Miller, who is the owner of Homegrown Media. So we've got these three experts with us today. I'm going to start with a few questions, and then we'll take a few questions from the audience. So I thought maybe we would start with Jen, and maybe can you give us an update on how your clients are handling this crisis, especially with regards to advertising spending? Are they cutting advertising budgets? Are they spending more money? Give us a little lay of the land from your client's perspective.
I think right now what we're hearing from clients is that they are watching and seeing, and we've had very few of our clients in our portfolio who've had to shut down entirely. What we're seeing more than anything is a ramp up in some advertising and a ramp down in other advertising. So some of them have hiring freezes right now, so some of the advertising that we do to support that is temporarily paused or shifted elsewhere. We have a couple of them that have had to close where they have a more of a brick and mortar experience, and they to a digital perspective. But all in all, throughout that, I think it's very early, and everybody is communicating a lot about, maybe need for flexibility and asking for advice on how to market through a pandemic. We've been through flood and recession before, but we haven't been through a pandemic-induced recession. And I'm like a doomsday prepper when it comes to the economy. I spend a lot of time thinking about it, and I have always felt I'm going to be really ready if a recession comes. But even this, like, I don't think anybody could have foreseen the extent to which this will happen and the swiftness with which it happened.
Right, thank you. Lori, can you just give us an update on how your clients are handling this crisis?
Sure, John, and thanks for inviting AMPERAGE. We appreciate being part of this conversation today. We've seen a pullback, more delay than cancellation. We have a lot of event-based advertising that we do, and of course that's been rolled until the events are moved to later in the year. We've also had where we've had brand launches or new products. It's not the time to advertise those right now, obviously. But other industries, I mean, if you have, your brand purpose and you have a solution to offer in this COVID narrative, in this crisis narrative, it's the time to get out there. People are consuming media like nobody's business right now. And we're seeing that from our healthcare clients. We're seeing it from our financial institutions, and we're seeing it from higher ed. Right now, there's so much search up for people that are unemployed, unfortunately, but they're looking for jobs and they're looking for education. And boy, the trade search is really up for trade type of education. So we're seeing our community colleges coming back and universities coming back, and we're starting to, I think we're making the turn. People are getting that right message out and offering that solution.
Good, thank you. Rob, you want to give us a lay of the land with your clients?
You bet, you bet. You know, cutting a lot of the traditional spending, like what Jen referenced, related to hiring. I've got some restaurant and brick and mortar partners that are cutting spending related to their events that they would traditionally be hosting. But you know, as things continue to shift and evolve, there's still an important message to get out, no matter who you are. And it was fast and furious there for a while. I feel like the waters have settled a little bit here over the last 10 days or so, which is now allowing them to kind of find what this new normal might look like, and then figuring out how to, you know, be sensitive and understand the tone of the situation. But also, you know, a lot of businesses can provide value right now, and they just got to get creative in doing that. It may come at the expense of cutting advertising spend, but there are still other ways to get the message out, which I think is, you know, just encouraging more creativity and a more nimble attitude than maybe in the past.
I think Lori answered this question already. I thought maybe Rob or Jen can weigh in a little bit. Lori talked a little bit about the couple of the industries. I think she said education, healthcare, finance are kind of maybe stepping up a little bit. Are there specific industries, Rob or Jen, that are either stepping up a little bit and doing some more creative things or some more spending? I understand probably, as Rob mentioned, you know, the restaurant industry is probably not spending a whole heck of a lot of money right now just because they can't really bring a lot of clients in into their buildings. So Jen and Rob, can you weigh in on that?
I'll just add a quick couple nuggets and I'll throw it to you, Jen. I've seen some increases in businesses that can bundle their services and maybe offer a DIY offering. So I was just having a conversation with someone this morning about paint companies being able to ship you your paint and your brushes and your rollers and your cloth and all that. And so if you can get creative from that perspective and maybe push yourself to not lean back on the traditional brick and mortar experience of you come in, you buy from me, you take it home, and you kind of work through that. You know, same with restaurants, pushing delivery, pushing online ordering, and maybe that's the more than a nudge, maybe a shove into more of an e-commerce way of delivering to their customers. So that's and I one other quick example is like commercial maintenance or vehicle maintenance, you know, where you can drop off your car, where you can have someone come into your workplace and work on the space without your employees there. A carpet cleaner was an example the other day that I encountered, and those types of businesses that can, it's better for them when your employees aren't there and they can work on your space.
Yeah, I think that there's going to be a shift. I'd say most of our clients had a primarily digital presence in the first place. We're seeing the marketplace shift rapidly from primarily digital to a fully digital experience right now. There are verticals that have opportunities right now, really in maybe pushing a campaign of comfort when it comes to that B2B or B2C experience. So as spending, as there's more uncertainty and people are spending less, messages of affordable luxury are important for brands to adapt to right now. The food and beverage industry, consumables, and essentials are really the ones that have the biggest opportunities right now. There is a really great dashboard out there it's on within.co. And it is really a pulse on retail marketing spends. So it's been really interesting. And I think we can safely say Facebook is really winning the eyeballs war right now. So we're seeing increased impressions on Facebook advertising that we have right now and a decreased cost per click. Conversely, Google, it's a little harder right now because now there's just a wider audience out there searching for a wider array of search terms. So Google spends are down right now. And Google is trying to provide some relief too. I know that they are doing some ad credits for advertisers that have been advertising since January of 2019. I believe that some small business advertisers will see credits in their accounts in the next couple of months. So it's interesting. There's a big battle out there for those ad dollars that do exist. And I think Facebook and Google are going to slug it out.
Lori, I want to go to you again. You know, when you think about messaging for your clients, how does it differ in a crisis versus normal operations? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. I was actually just talking with Mark Mathis about that. And, we went back to 9/11. And it's a reminder, the demographics, who we advertise to, has not changed. But the people have. Where we're at right now, knowing your audience, what they're feeling, panic, anxiety, worry, God bless many are mourning right now, right? So that old ad that you might have out there that talks about, hey, I'm the #1 car dealer in town, doesn't sound sincere, and it's not right. So obviously the messaging needs to change to that of empathy and comfort and hope and thank you, and let's celebrate our heroes. We have so many awesome unsung heroes in Iowa, including the journalists, like I said yesterday. God bless you for being out there and helping us get this news to everyone. And it's an opportunity to be authentic and transparent. Like I said, I'm working here from my camper for my little workspace right now. And this is about as real as it gets in this new environment. So there's lots of opportunities to get that right message out there for brands. And again, know your brand purpose, offer a solution. Don't sell right now, offer a solution. And you can insert yourself in the right way to help your community, help nonprofits. God knows they need help right now. So content, actually cause-based marketing is really important right now on so many fronts.
I think Jen touched on this a second ago, but I'm gonna ask Rob the question, and then I'll open it up to the group again. There's so much information being consumed right now. There's a lot of webinars, lots of white papers. I think people are on the internet and watching the news and reading the newspapers more than they've ever done in the past. And so Jen talked a little bit about Facebook and how there's a real, those clicks are really going up. Rob, how do you get your message out when there's so much information happening right now, and sometimes it becomes a little noisy?
Yeah. For me, what I've advised the folks I work with is if it's not uniquely yours or value that you can provide based on the relationship that you have with your customers, then it's okay to play the less is more approach right now. I don't know that all consumers are waiting for all brands to update them on all things COVID-19. So, if it's specific to your business and it does provide value to the end user, I think it's important and critical that those messages get out there. But to your point, if it's just more resources, more ways to wash your hands, I think that's where it becomes part of the noise. Jen, I'll throw it to you.
Sure. We've talked with a lot of our clients who feel the need to get a lot of information out there right now. And we've had to remind a lot of them that there is a lot of information out there. Really, you're just one more voice, and that being telling your story in a way that's helpful to the narrative rather than just sort of a pile on is really the better approach to take. We're telling the brands that we work with right now to step back and take a second to shore up some of your content. this is an opportunity to audit some of the content that you have for to make sure it's still relevant, to make sure nothing out there is insensitive. Like Lori said, having a car dealership, you know, sort of tongue-in-cheek funny ad right now might not be appropriate. So checking your tone, checking your content, and making sure that everything is really appropriate for right now, but also taking that opportunity to build some new content. We don't know how this is going to change the overall tone of advertising and marketing and how we communicate with our clients in the long term. So taking those steps now, because I really do think that things will be different after this. I mean, it'll be a new normal, whatever it is.
Lori, anything you want to add to that mix there?
Yeah, I think they've covered that really well. Just looking back here at some of my notes, one of the ways that I would say that we're really trying to break through the clutter is using video a lot more. I mean, we can emotionally connect. I mean, even podcasts right now are very useful. People are consuming content like crazy right now. And later we talk about some of our other vehicles in media. I did pull some statistics working with our media directors that are just astonishing when it comes to the CNN, MSNBC type of viewership. And we are now living in a world where prime time is daytime television. So it's interesting times. But I say, yeah, use video, use podcasts, use ways you can emotionally connect to break through the clutter, but make sure it's factual, make sure it's information that people can use in their lives. It's just not, like you said, like both of my fellow panelists said, just don't add noise, and that's not adding value.
Right. So last summer, the Corridor Business Journal celebrated its 15th anniversary. And I mentioned to folks at that time that we survived the Great Recession, the Great Flood, and basically the complete transformation of the media industry in those short 15 years. And this coronavirus seems much more challenging and much more difficult than those three changes. And so I'll just throw it out there to the group about, from your history in the industry, is there anything similar, and what's some of the lessons we can maybe learn from either the floods of 2008 or the Great Recession or 9/11 that would be instructive to our listeners and readers? I'll throw it out to any of you.
I'll jump in there. If the recession taught us anything, it was to be able to pivot to meet our clients' needs. And John, I'm sure you're finding that too. And we've always talked about that and being ready for that in the event that a recession happened again. I think that this will find all advertisers pivot and all businesses pivoting to meet needs in new and different ways. I do believe that America, as a result of this, ultimately, this is where our innovation comes into play, and this is where businesses have an opportunity to think about how they can help their community and how they can rise together to meet that challenge. And I think that the companies that do that will not be forgotten when this all shakes out. And I think that's really important for businesses to remember. And you see things like Eric Engelman 3D printing face masks for hospitals and getting that ball rolling, and how that kind of spread across Iowa. People aren't going to forget those kind of things. And that's what's important for, I think, companies to remember right now is, seek to help, seek to rise to the challenge, and business will recover, and we can't predict what it'll look like yet when it does, but the ones who do that, I think, will be the ones that make it through.
I love what you said there, Jen. I mean, I think if companies are rising to meet the needs of their communities in the ways that they can, that will be met with gratitude and likely a positive response when we're in the clear, whenever that is. The other piece of this too is, we're all in it. The whole country, the whole world is facing the same challenge. I mean, the flood of 2008 unique to the Midwest. But in this sense, this is the entire globe facing an issue at the same time. And, I think that also maybe should provide you or businesses some leniency and that, hey, you're not expected to have all the answers, but you may have a little more time to do some homework and come up with an answer. And so in that respect, maybe the pressure has been taken off in regard to your day-to-day operations. If you're running a brick and mortar, you probably don't have the same opening and closing that you always have had, but so maybe you can use that time to adapt or do more homework on what competitors are doing or what some success stories that are out there and adapt your business to meet some of those.
Lori, anything to add there?
Sure. I'm more from the crisis side of things than the public relations side of things. So 9/11, I was working for the airlines in crisis communications and PR. One thing that I think we're going to see more of is clients are going to take a look at getting a good crisis plan together, doing crisis training during peacetime, doing crisis drills during peacetime, and be prepared for the type of messaging that you want to have around a pandemic. The other thing I'm certain of is we've been digitally first, digital forward, like you said, John, boy, since, recession when we floods and just keeps moving. And we're really living in a digital only world right now. And we're going to see more virtual, more digital experience, I think, on the other end of this. And even today we're talking about our fundraising. We're just not an ad agency. We do a lot of capital campaigns, libraries, hospitals, recreational projects, and really just moving our fundraising tools to a whole new digital scape. I mean, Mark Mathis right now, probably as I'm speaking, is working on all new digital tools for our fundraising advisors because we need to help those nonprofits. Fundraising is going to have to happen. So new ways of doing things. And I'm excited. I think, at each crisis we learn something, we come out stronger, and we have new tools in our toolbox, right, to communicate with people. So I see the benefits of the future.
So this might be a difficult question, but if you can give us an example or two of who's doing it really well right now, who's marketing really well right now, and let's make sure that they're not your client, if that's possible. So, I think, Jen talked about Eric Engelman and the new BOCO brand. I think that brand was really supported very well with what they were doing with the mask. And I think you think about Jeff Quint with Cedar Ridge and Steve Shriver with Eco-Lips helping create the sanitizers for folks. So is there one or two clients either on a local or a national scale that is really doing it well that you could show as an example? Anybody want to take that?
Take it. I'm really excited to see what Hy-Vee did from the very, very beginning, and they are not one of our clients. Coming out just with some of the basic information, using, safe video clips that they had, stock images to get the news out. This is how we can help. And then now they've moved into their heroes. Likewise, I never thought about leaning on a Walmart associate in my past, but I love that. I love that spot that they're doing. Our grocery store people being new heroes. And I think Jen, your organization did work with Cedar Ridge, and they actually just helped one of our clients, Four Oaks, with getting some hand sanitizers and trying to get it to the nonprofit. So sorry, John, I think I broke a rule, but I talked about her client helping my clients. So hopefully with that.
I think I just add in there that that I think Facebook is doing a lot of good things right now, and that might be a little self-serving in that Facebook's been in some hot water lately, but they have been very communicative about their intention to fight misinformation regarding this, which spreads like the virus, right? I mean, misinformation is very dangerous, and some of their advertising that has pulled hard on heartstrings without going over, without crossing a line at all. It's been really some really beautiful pieces. And as a marketing nerd, to sort of dissect that and look at what they've done, and it's with a high degree of admiration, their communications throughout this.
Rob, anybody jump out to you who's doing it really well right now?
Yeah, I think the city governments, at least in our area, I've certainly had their hands full with trying to express, closures and maybe overcome some of the uncertainties around, what can my family and I get out and do right now, and things like that. So, just the day-to-day living of living in a city. I've seen the city of North Liberty do a nice job. City of Iowa City, the Iowa City downtown district is doing a beautiful job of supporting their businesses in that area and coming up with delivery freebies for the restaurant partners. I saw that Think Iowa City and downtown district were working on that together. So yeah, I mean, any of the business organizations that can support their members right now, I think that's really well received by both the community and the businesses themselves.
Lori, I want to come back to you on this next question. We talked about like some of the brands that have been doing well with this crisis, but what about anybody in general in government or in the private sector that's really been a good example of how to handle a crisis? I think maybe, Governor Cuomo in New York has been mentioned for someone that's always out there trying to be very upfront with folks. Is there anybody that, from your perspective, is doing it well, not necessarily from a corporate brand standpoint, but from a public official standpoint?
I would agree with your assessment of Governor Cuomo. I think he's done a fabulous job of getting the message out there, getting the facts out there, and even behind the scenes. Not to be self-serving, but I do have clients in the Iowa Insurance Division here locally, as well as the AG's office. Unfortunately, during this time, bad actors come out and they prevent fraud. And so we have an Iowa Fraud Fighters program. And so there's a pivot and shift than just not so much worrying about our senior citizens and the horrible amount of fraud that's, that they are inflicted with these bad actors. But I think they're doing a good job of trying to get the message out to everyone, like, look for fraud, report fraud when you see it, because it's even Medicare fraud, it's a $50 billion with a B dollar cost to the nation. And just to put in perspective, our Homeland Security whole budget is $40 billion. So fraud's a big business. And I think any government entities that are trying to help Iowans protect themselves from these bad actors are doing a fabulous job.
So let's talk a little bit about, okay, we are coming out of the crisis and we're getting back into operations of somewhat of a normal condition. Can you talk a little bit about how you're trying to prepare your clients to think about starting up again, if you will, if they've been shut down? Any advice or best practices that you folks would share with our audience about, okay, things are getting back, we really need to get our ducks in a row because there might be some real potential for additional gaining of market share if you have another good message once operations are up and running again. Does that make sense? Anybody want to grab that one?
I'll start if anybody wants to add into this. One of the things that we're talking to our clients about right now is making sure that we have real-time data and that we use some of this time to set up some more extensive dashboards that allow them to track things in real time. And your digital dashboards really are like your war room right now. It's where you can see spikes in traffic. It's where you can see what's converting and what's not converting, and you can pivot very quickly. But you can also gain a lot of data at that point. So right now, collecting that data and scrubbing that data and making sure that it's good and ready to go, and have those messages queued up essentially, and get some of those processes in place to restart things once it's appropriate to restart things. And there is a slight silver lining in here, that it's giving a lot of business owners a chance to step back for a second and say, how do I want this next phase to go? It has really slowed the pace of life for a lot of people. while at the same time, you know, they're running 1,000,000 miles an hour trying to get their federal aid applications in, but they are having an opportunity to think deeper about this and put a few things in place that are going to set them up better for the long haul. I would encourage that digital dashboard to really be set up and be operating and be ready to accelerate your marketing when it is time.
Rob, anything you want to weigh in on there?
Yeah, I would just add that, you know, this is a good time to do a scrub of your online presence when it comes to your website, and does it look and sound and feel the way you want it to? And then going beyond website, your Google My Business page. Maybe you have multiple locations. Is your Google My Business page optimized? Have you spent time in there updating that as it's evolved over the last few years? And then it gets, you know, a level deeper into your Facebook page, your LinkedIn profile, your Yelp page, Bing, TripAdvisor, you know, kind of whatever applies to your industry. But, you know, this is a good time right now to do a deep dive into those, what I call third-party platforms. You know, maybe you don't, maybe you spend a lot of your time updating your website, but you haven't logged into Google My Business in a while. This is a good time to do that, so that when you come out of all this, you're locked and loaded for maximum success.
Great. So I got a question here from Facebook. I think this is specifically to you, Lori. It says AMPERAGE name was attached to a number of capital campaigns in the area. Are nonprofits still fundraising right now? And what's the best approach to fundraising during a time of crisis?
That's a great question. Actually, part of the care package that came out, there is some good news there for our nonprofits, and that what you can gift now in terms of tax deductions, I believe is like 25% versus the 10%, something in those lines. And our fundraising advisors could definitely explain that better, but there is some opportunity there. We've actually seen some new clients come forward wanting to do feasibility studies, start the study to get fundraising again. You know, let's look at this, because they know that's going to need to start happening. So, and then move into your online tools. You know, there's a lot of ways to raise funds in a crisis with our Facebook, our social platforms, you know, digitalizing your fundraising. And because it's important work. I mean, you look at our library in Cedar Rapids, you look at hospitals. I mean, that's one of my proudest moments, is being able to get out, drive around and see these buildings that our team has helped raise, you know, these funds. And it's impactful, and we need to get back to doing that work as soon as we can. The last question that you had, one other thing I would add to Rob and Jen's comments is, I think before you come back out, I see companies sometimes struggle with what is their purpose. What is my mission statement? Those that have those answers and understand their core values, they, in any crisis, it's their moral compass, it's their true north. They know what they're doing and why they're doing it. Before you come back out, it might be a time to do a brand alignment study, do some research, figure out if who your brand is it the same that you perceive it as what your customers perceive it. So it's a good time after a crisis to just really, you know, take a pulse of where you're at.
Jen, anything to add on the fundraising side, or Rob, anything on the fundraising side? I'm not sure if that's your cup of tea or not, but if it is, feel free to weigh in.
Well, the fundraising side is definitely not my cup of tea. But I will say we do work with a lot of nonprofits that are working very hard to make sure that their message is appropriate, that they look at all their options, and that, like the Paycheck Protection Program Act, and that they get through that, and they're seeking legal counsel so they don't you know, do something wrong and get themselves in hot water. This is a really difficult time to raise money if you're not in one of the, I'd say, industries on the forefront of the battle. So some of them are really just going to have to be patient through part of it, and to go to their core base of donors. I do have a background in fundraising, but I don't like doing it all. But I have talked to a lot of the boards that I sit on about, we need to just go to our core database right now, our core supporters right now, and not send out a, you know, support our program that doesn't feel relevant to the wider audience right now. So being sensitive again is really one of the most important things that any business or nonprofit can do.
Yeah, I'll just add one nugget, and that's just contingency planning. Some real thought behind, hey, if we don't have the dollars that we've always counted on, what does that mean? How do we adjust programming or offerings? And that's not necessarily unique to nonprofits, but if the recession of the 10 years ago, 12 years ago tells us anything, it's that the spending may not come back at the level in which it was there before. And so if that's the case, maybe your growth plans have to be adjusted. And again, this is just a good time to revisit some of that and have, hey, this is plan A. If everything comes back the way we expect it to, great. But if we have a plan B in order, that'll just have you that much more organized when we're in the clear.
So last question I've got for you, and I think the answer is yes, but I just want to, this comes from Facebook, and it says, if I am looking for COVID-related messaging or clients, are you taking new clients? I think everybody's nodding.
Well, yes, I mean, for sure. But in fact, I think that a lot of agencies are in the same boat. Marketing is one of the first things that can get cut, and we probably all disagree with that tactic. But in a downturn, it's one of the first things that often gets cut and one of the last things to come back. I would say that the marketing and the messaging and the communication aspect of it is critical. And we talked earlier about the ones that do it well are going to be the ones that survive this interesting time we're in. I think I heard it referred to as World War Zoom the other day, and here we all are. So.
Yeah, I would agree with Jen's assessment on that. Just being here to help and to offer support and to help with that messaging. There's never a time where messaging's more important than when you're in the midst of a crisis. And I just think, it's good to remember too, that we are Iowa strong. We have, been through the high water. And this week, during Holy Week, no matter what God you worship, I think as Iowans, we're going to get through this strong as well during Holy Week and on. And I think it's so important that people just do their part. Talking with some of the medical community, we are our first line of defense. The medical team is the last line of defense, and just doing our part as Iowans, like we do. We're Iowa nice, we're Iowa strong. Keep up the good work. Flatten this curve, right?
Well, I think I'm going to leave it there, Lori. That's a nice way to, I think, wrap up the discussion. So thank you to Rob Miller and Jen Neumann and Lori Davis for spending time with us to share their expertise with our listeners and readers today. A couple quick final thoughts. Our next webinar is coming up on Thursday, April 9th, and that will be by Marlo Higgins, who will discuss working from home, now what? Strategies to be effective. And so you are going to want to participate with that one. Again, that's free. And again, all of our webinars through the month of April will be each Tuesday and Thursday at 12 noon, and they will be free. You can register at our website at corridorbusiness.com. A couple other final notes. One of our upcoming events, which was scheduled to be in person, is our annual Innovation Watch event set for May 12th. This event explores some of the latest advances in technology in the corridor. And now we are planning for that event to be a virtual event. And it does have a sub-theme of how innovation in Iowa is helping combat the COVID-19 crisis.
That's good.
So I think that'll be something folks will want to take a look at. For those fast growing companies out there, our applications for our fastest growing companies awards is April 17th. So you might get that nomination in if you're interested in your company's fast growing. And then finally, I have been asked by folks how they can help the CBJ during this challenging time. And all the attendees will be getting an email from me after this webinar. And I would simply just encourage you to subscribe to our digital version of the Corridor Business Journal. That that will not only help you stay informed, but it will also help us continue to be able to do things like this and support our reporters during this time. So, and then lastly, if there's any businesses interested in sponsoring these webinar series, feel free to reach out to me. I think that's providing a lot of good content, and we'd be interested in talking to you. So thank you again for participating. Special thanks again to Jen Neumann, Lori Davis, and Rob Miller for their time today. And stay healthy and keep reading the weekly Corridor Business Journal. Thank you very much.